podcast, everyone. You're here with the Poi N Soy podcast with the boys of Poi N Soy. With me, as always, are my longtime friends and co-hosts, Jalen, Jared, and Keone. Say what's up to the crowd.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, huh?
So we're keeping it, cordial, happy today, right, Jalen?
Always, Jalen.
All right.
No.
Well, we're going to go through some very lengthy details on the DC slate that was released by James Gunn and Peter Safran. It's going to be some exciting times for those of you who love Jalen's rants.
Dog shit.
We're going to get into that. But first, we're going to do one quick topic off the top, because we know we talked about it last episode regarding the Michael Jackson biopic.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to go into DC slate, and then we're going to talk about The Last of Us episode 3, which was a banger. If you guys like the show so far, please stick around for that, because you're going to love it. So yeah, like I said, first thing we're going to go over is regarding the Michael Jackson biopic that was announced to be directed and I believe written by Antoine Fuqua. According to reports, Michael Jackson's nephew, Jaafar Jackson, is going to be stepping into the role of his late uncle. Now, I didn't really know too much about him, and I looked through Twitter, and people were posting videos, and that boy can sing. And it's very, tonally close to Michael. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts off the top. Obviously, we discussed... I know. I'll start with you, Jalen. I know we discussed last time that we kind of don't know if they're going to do double casting for the later half of his life.
Could, yeah.
So just kind of let us know your quick hit thoughts on him actually stepping into the role about his late uncle.
I mean, I think it's a good move. I mean, he doesn't have established star power, so no one's going to judge him for that, right? He can either sink or swim, right? It's a biopic, so really, I mean, I would assume that he had a fairly okay relationship with his uncle at some point, to where he could probably do a good representation of him as a person and as a singer, as a performer. Obviously, if he's able to sing in any caliber close to Michael, right? No one's really ever going to get, that, just like Elvis and all these other biopic stars that they had. That kind of vibe, but I think him as the lead in this will be fine. I don't think they have to double cast because his complexion is still fairly light. It's definitely prime Michael through the 80s, right? But I think they can do enough with makeup and a little bit of CGI mapping that they'll be okay. So I think doing a CGI nose again for a biopic versus a prosthetic is easier on the actor. And it's also easier VFX wise if they want to dump that much money into it than doing, let's say removing a mustache because people are stupid. Who knows? Certain companies that won't be named.
Moving on from Jalen before he gets into too early.
And it begins.
I believe because this is the casting where they are going to be using a family member, it is kind of unspoken, but kind of directly correlated where we did discuss what type of storyline time frame are they going to go into. Now that we kind of know that the family is closely invested into the project, what are your thoughts now on what we may actually see? What is the kind of carry out? It's obviously going to, I'm assuming now because the family's there, and obviously they were very, very against everything that was kind of being put out against Michael. I would assume that it's going to be more on him and the music rather than going into those life stories. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Like you said, because it is family and they're using the nephew and everything, I think they're going to use young Michael, what he is and who he is and what he brought and basically how he made music. He made the industry today, and I think that's going to be, in my opinion, I think that's going to be the more focal point of everything. I think they're going to just try to focus on him as a kid, him with the Jackson 5, bringing all that up, and then going off on his own and seeing what it was like there, trying to stay I want to say they're going to try to stay out of the media light, because once you go that way, it's kind of that's where I feel like the family and everything else is going to have more issues with. If they're trying to celebrate what he was as a celebrity and not what all the accusations and everything else that happened, then I think that's where the story should lie. Because Michael Jackson as an entertainer, Michael Jackson as a music icon should be celebrated.
Yes.
Because we talked about it in the last pod and how basically everything that happens today is because of that man.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
and so I think it should be celebrated in that light, not the man he literally was, but what he brought to the industry and what he made his name for, and what everybody in the industry knows as Michael Jackson is. So and I'm hoping and I'm thinking that with this, and like you said, with the family being so closely invested in it, that it'll probably stay more on the music side of things than the personal backstory of things.
Probably
And
a lot
at
of
least that's where I'm
family-oriented
thinking.
story plots going on there.
Yeah, and if you want to criminalize him and hate him, like the Neverland documentary exists, you know what I'm saying? So you can dive into that and just be mad at Michael, right? If that's what you want to focus on. But, if you want to celebrate.
Are they going to need, like, the written permission from, like, people like Macaulay Culkin to even be a character in this movie?
They would.
If they do want to go into that,
I think so.
Right?
I think so.
But I mean, like, the thing is, I forgot the legal jargon regarding it, but like for the Tommy and Pamela show that came out, they didn't need written permission from those two to make the show because it was like a legal report that came out and certain stuff that they didn't have to ask them for any permission. I know Pamela didn't even watch the show. But I guess I don't know if it's going to overlap in this as well, because maybe Macaulay Culkin was technically in the proceedings of certain things that went on. But we'll kind of move on to a little more of a different note. Keone, for this movie, you probably, between the four of us, are the most musically versed, I guess you could say. Do you think it was wise to place a Jackson in the role? Or do you think, in a movie like this where Michael Jackson's voice and singing ability is a very high standard for anyone to kind of step into? Like Elvis, sure, Austin Butler did a phenomenal job and was able to kind of carry that kind of voice. But when you look at it this way, would it have been beneficial to just, cast someone who maybe likeness and image looks like him, but then don't actually have them really singing and just kind of keep things like a voiceover with the actual songs?
I don't think so, specifically because of what happened at the tail end of his lifetime.
Okay.
I think because you have somebody who is closely tied to the family, you can kind of already understand where the movie might go, the direction of the movie might be. It might be on the little more lighthearted side. So I would say it was a good move publicity-wise for the movie, because you don't – I think if you went the other way – it leaves it more open for and then on top of that, they would have had to have found somebody who was probably a relatively unknown person, and that really could have affected that person's career. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are a lot of talented people that I'm sure could have filled the role, but because of the controversy surrounding the movie, they would have been relegated to like being just constantly berated by whoever is like an anti-Michael Jackson fan. Whereas I think because you bring in a family member and you understand that the family is on board with the portrayal of him, now you have to kind of respect at least the fact that the family is trying to, sort of paint this more positive light about his life. And obviously we all hear, I mean, for the most part, I'm not going to speak for any of you guys because I don't want to say specifically what I believe any of you feel, but I do think that we are all big fans of him, and we look at that side of it more than we do like anything that did happen afterward. So as far as like how we would want to see the movie, I think this is something that, as a fan of Michael Jackson, of his music, of everything that he did for the industry, it's the perfect casting. Like, you find somebody within the family that also has if you look at this kid, I mean, he almost looks like young, like Thriller Michael Jackson. Like, he looks, and like Jay said, I mean, you could do a little bit of makeup for his, like literally, like, I think it's the one that like Bianca always tells me all the time. She's like, gosh, he was so good looking right here. I was just like, yeah, you're right. Like, this was like, Thriller was like his look. Like that was like the prime version of how he looked and how I think, I remember him, because that was his like big part of his career where he had such good music coming out at the same time. that I kind of sort of get numb to what happened to the rest of the career, to the rest of his life. But at the end of the day, I do think that this was the perfect casting. I think his nephew wanting to honor his uncle, and then on top of that, the fact that the family is signing on for the film, and then on top of that, just wanting to release the film from like the, you know, the directorial side of it. Like, you want to be able to put your best foot forward. And I think this is the best foot forward that you could put. Like, there wasn't a lot of options out there to make this something that was going to be received positively. So
agreed. Yeah, and that'll do it for us regarding the Michael Jackson biopic. Now we're going to go into some fun things. And I know my friend Jalen is thoroughly prepared for this moment. This past week, James Gunn and Peter Safran have released their official DC slate. Yes, we have had some qualms about things that have transpired thus far, but we're going to go into the releases that were being announced for what they call Gods and Monsters. That's the title of the first portion release of the slate. We're going to go into it. We're going to get our objective thoughts on the actual IPs and titles being released.
You say?
I will give Jalen his time.
Objective.
And you as well, Jared. Come on, Jalen.
I'm gonna let up words on Keone, I'll mute.
Look,
Jalen,
I just want
Jalen.
the thoughts
We're ready for
on
you.
including certain titles as well as what can this actually mean. So starting off, we're getting into the fact that they are creating a DC Elseworlds, which means that they can create things in the DC universe that don't have to be actually connected to certain projects. I kind of want to get your open head thoughts regarding this as a tactic.
That I agree with. Next.
All right, Keone agrees.
Things that should have been done years ago. Yes.
Agree. Next.
Great
Anyway,
job.
let's get to the real portion of this.
You get 1/3 of a gold star for that brilliant
All right.
idea.
Here's we're gonna go over
no
the
effort.
One-third of a
releases.
gold star.
We're gonna go over the TV releases or streaming releases in this case.
Right.
So they have announced that they are going to be releasing a TV series for Booster Gold. My understanding is Booster Gold is someone from the future who has come back with advanced technology to make himself appear as a enhanced being and thus a superhero. Jalen, I'm going to ask you really quick, do you have any kind of precursor knowledge regarding Booster Gold and what does this actually mean for the future?
It's the lazy man's Iron Man. James Gunn, you're copy pasting from your other company.
Oh, God, here, come on.
But that's literally what he is.
I'm going to go grab some drink for me.
He has the Tony Stark bravado. He's very much a over-the-top guy. So you're going to need to find an actor that can kind of bring that to the role. He was in one singular episode of Smallville back in the day, but it was a farce. Like, he wasn't actually Booster Gold. The whole premise was that he was faking being a superhero that then led to catastrophe, and they found the actual villain of the episode. So that's kind of Booster Gold's whole shtick. He does pair up a lot with another superhero, which is on this list, which we'll get to later, a lot. So that would be great to kind of finally get that in the DC universe, had it been by literally anyone else.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Jalen.
You said objective, so
Yeah.
there you go. It's as good as you're going to get.
Jared, I'll throw this one over to you. They are creating a Paradise Lost TV/streaming show, which is going to be the kind of early history of Themyscira, which is the hidden island that Wonder Woman originates from. And it's supposed to be before Diana is born. Just want to get your thoughts on this show being announced.
I don't need anything that has to do with things that before the superhero comes. I just need to deal with the superhero. That's my objective at it.
You guys are assholes. You know that? trying to run a
You
show
just
here.
let me just pop off on
I
this,
will
man.
get there. I will get there. I'll get there.
All right. Sorry.
I'm honestly gonna say though, like I get how they want to build backstory. We talk about backstory and how important it is and everything, but if it's before she's born and it has really nothing like to help me gain insight to somebody we already have something about, then I don't need that story. You know what I mean? In any world, it could be Marvel, it could be this, it could be any TV show that I want to watch. Like if it's something that I don't need, that doesn't help me lead into like why she is the way she is or the future of everything, then I think it's just a cop out to put something out, in my opinion. Like that's what it is. And that's me being nice about it. You know, like you said, be nice about it, be nice.
Gonna keep track.
I'm a very nice
said
person.
they are 0 for 1 on the television show.
I moved up down Jalen's list.
Keone, moving on to you.
So,
They have announced.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am. I am sure. I am sure. They have announced a Green Lantern streaming show that is obviously, like all the other shows that they've announced, are going to be tying into the overall universe. Apparently, the show will star both Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart as Green Lanterns, as well as other lanterns in the universe. What are your thoughts on them finally greenlighting and officially, I guess you could say, pre-production of a Green Lantern project?
I agree. Move on. No, I'm sure. No, it's like honestly, this of all the things that were announced was probably the one that I was relatively like excited for, and on board for, because of the fact that we never really had that iteration in any sort of semblance outside of the horrible, what is his name? Yeah, Ryan Reynolds version of the film.
Reynolds, yes.
So I do think that of all the things that was announced, probably the one thing that I was like, with it, let's see it. I mean, I'm down to see the Lanterns getting their due, because we've not seen them on the big screen yet. So
yeah. The next one is
we're going one by one, all of them.
This one. I'll let you guys all kind of just jump in on it. The one after this, I'm going to let Jalen take because he might have more info. Is an Amanda Waller TV show that will cast the returning actress of Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller thus far. What are your thoughts on the show like this? I believe they said it's supposed to be in between Peacemaker season 1 and 2. I know, Keone, you watched Peacemaker. Jalen, did you get a chance to watch it as well?
I did not.
Okay, no problem. Jared, did you watch it? It is supposed to include some of the cast from the Peacemaker show, but it is going to be regarding Amanda Waller and her shenanigans. Thoughts on this being kind of the first official actress that is going to be returning for this DC universe? Anyone? This one's an open house.
I mean, great that it's Viola Davis, but like literally no one asked for this. It's like the Han Solo movie. Like no one cared, and now you're just giving us this content. I love Viola Davis. I love her playing Amanda Waller. What I don't need is an entire series revolving her playing
We're
Amanda Waller.
resetting the MCU, and we'll be releasing a series around Sam Jackson's version of...
The funny part about that is, though, because his character is way more interesting than Amanda Waller canonically, I would happily watch a Samuel L. Jackson-led Nick Fury show. But not Amanda Waller, because she's just kind of an asshole. That's her whole character. That's it. She's just there.
I want to watch Sam Jackson.
She runs the Doom Patrol and some of the other stuff. Like that's it. Suicide Squad. That's the only thing she's there for.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Hot take. I actually really enjoyed the Amanda Waller from Arrowverse. I thought
I
that
did
she
too.
did it.
She
I thought
did a
that
great
she did
job.
a great job. Mm-hmm.
Which some other people from Arrowverse were going to be included in this. So. That's terrible.
I don't think you can get an objective opinion out of Jay. But I will say from my perspective,
he's biting his tongue.
As the only one here, I guess, who watched all of Peacemaker. I mean, I loved Peacemaker. I actually thought that show was pretty damn good. Like,
I thought it was fun as well.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, the tone of it was really good. They went that full-blown Suicide Squad direction where you kind of had like the raunchy comedy, and you kind of had John Cena being his like, typical like comedy self. So like that stale bread like comedy. But I do think that her character arc between the 2 seasons will be very interesting because we kind of saw what happened at the end of the Peacemaker season. And like the little cameos that they dropped there. So I do think that it could be an interesting show. I actually will say I wouldn't mind watching that show as a fan of what they did with Peacemaker. Okay, I'll leave it at that for now. We'll save the rest for later. So
okay,
I will say I would be down to watch that show because of what I've seen with Peacemaker.
All right. The last TV show that is going to be released.
Just keeping track here. So far, we're 1, 4, 5. So we can keep going.
What was the next one, Nolan?
What's the next one, Nolan? Go ahead.
Jalen, I'd like to know if you have any precursor information regarding Creature Commandos, which is going to be a TV show releasing.
That is an OG Wildstorm property that he is bringing to life from the great Jim Lee himself. So they're kind of blending those universes together. This is a James Gunn passion project. Literally no one asked for this ever, not in their lifetime. But it's going to do some fan service. So good for you, James Gunn. Get to do a little fan service project for yourself with the Creature Commandos.
Could you let us know?
Creature Commandos is a
what
show?
Are the Creatures Commandos?
Roughly late 90s, by the way. It was during that era
What
where,
is it, though? What are they?
Same idea as the Justice League, except for this group, if I'm thinking of it correctly, this group is a little bit more, we're going to get the job done and don't give a shit how it gets done.
Is that Creature Commandos or is that the Authority?
Oh, maybe I'm thinking the Authority.
Because
I got them flipped.
You can double up on
They're
the
both
Authority.
Wildstorm properties, but I think I got them flipped. But either way,
I
they were
don't
both
think
passion
that's
projects that were like really niche one-offs in the late 90s that James Gunn was like passion projecting. So he's bringing them to life. I'm very happy for the Authority in some regards because of Jim Lee's work on it, and his art in it is fantastic. But Creature Commandos is also something. It's
in defense of what James Gunn is trying to do you think that this is kind of in vein of like the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Around.
Because
it's in his wheelhouse, groups of heroes doing, 100%.
Because I do feel like Guardians 100%. Of the Galaxy was one of those properties that was announced and everybody was kind of like, who the hell are these guys? And then it dropped and everybody was like, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know
I do believe I heard that the Authority is like the boys version of
I was just say, are they more in line with
the Justice League?
Who is that group that's about to be released?
Superhumans originally set in World War II, so it's kind of that
This
vibe.
Is Creature Commandos?
Yeah, this is Creature Commandos.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So they're like weird. It's kind of like another version of Doom Patrol, really, because they're all just weird characters all coming together to do stuff. So
why can I not think of the name of the group that has Yelena in it?
Yelena?
That group from MCU?
Oh, you mean
it's about to be released. Nope.
Thunderbolts?
Yeah, Thunderbolts. I was like, is this more in line with like the Thunderbolts? Because you said they're like trying to, they
technically
get their ish done.
Suicide Squad is closer to Thunderbolts.
Oh yeah.
The Authority is like
technically
the A-hole versions of Justice League.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's
like,
a good way.
We're gonna get it done. We don't.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, I got you.
No one cares.
Like no matter how many people die. So like Peacemaker's, what is it? Mantra? What does he say? I will kill for peace or something.
So, man, woman, and child have to kill to get to it.
Exactly.
Jared, I'm going to throw this one over to you. They are releasing a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie. This is one of the movies, not TV show, that they are releasing for the DC slate. The rumor is that they may be using the Supergirl that is going to premiere in the Flash movie coming out later this year. Thoughts on that they're actually going to kind of bring Kara
Do we know who that is?
Right? Kara.
Or is that a surprise?
They already have
actual...
the actress Sarah Kaye or something like that. They kind of have her listed, or they have her as the role for Supergirl in the Flash movie. And that'll kind of be connected to a point that I'm sure Jalen will go off on later. But I wanted to get your thoughts on them actually kind of investing in bringing a Supergirl movie, because the way that it is,
Sasha Calle.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Supergirl was raised in a very opposite kind of upbringing, right? In comparison to Superman, who had a loving family, 2 parents, everything like that. So it is going to be kind of a movie surrounding her and her life as she kind of is a Kryptonian on Earth.
I don't know, honestly. I mean, it's nice that you get a Supergirl movie, to help fill with everything. I think as I was searching for who the girl was, I think the last time we had a Supergirl movie, it looked like it said 1984. So, I mean, it's nice and up to date. And, I mean, if they're going to introduce her in the Flash movie, it's nice that they're kind of following up and giving you more insight into this person. And I will leave it at that because I'm sure Jay has some things to say about that.
Don't worry, I'm saving him for a specific one. Don't you fret.
No, I know.
Don't you fret.
I know what you're saving him for.
I am saving it for him.
Saying, we know what we're saving him for. But
all right.
I will say I'm glad they're using the girl from the Flash movie, if it exists, if it's actually real. I still don't buy it.
Okay, going to happen.
I'm sorry, but where's my other trailer? You know what I mean? Where's my other trailer? Where's
it's supposed to release for the Super Bowl.
Sure. We'll see. I'm right there with her, bro. I get it. On a second note, the only issue I have is that we're trying to do like Woman of Tomorrow, which is just a copy pasta of one of the greatest Superman runs ever made. So you're not doing any justice to Kara herself as a character because you're just trying to make her do things that Superman's already done. And that's not how you make a solo female-led superhero film. Why does no one in this godforsaken universe just copy what Wonder Woman did? I don't understand. It is the single greatest female-led superhero movie that's ever been made, ever, because it was stuff that only Wonder Woman specifically could do, which is exist in 2 different time periods, come from a land of Amazonian women as the top dog, by the way, and then influence the changing of minds of human beings all around the world, regardless of their gender. That's something that Wonder Woman herself as a character specifically can do. Kara has to live in the shoes of her cousin, which is a real thing, but her story is traumatic. So if they're not going to focus on the trauma and how women are able to process that at a immensely high level, then I don't want to see the movie, because I don't want to see her doing things that Superman already does. Like, that's not why Kara is a beloved character to me. I think that's what makes her character special. That's why Supergirl sucks as a TV show.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not going to speak for DC, but I'm pretty sure they'll probably go with the route that you want to see from a Supergirl movie. I
would hope so.
I don't think they're going to, like you said, copy pasta everything that Superman does, because why would I want to see just a female version of Superman when Superman is doing that? Or Wonder Woman does the same exact kind of thing. Right. Give her her actual backstory. Give her something that is going to actually let the character breathe more.
Yes.
But yeah, that'll be interesting. They haven't made a release date for that yet. One of the other things that they're doing, and this is kind of exciting to see in a way, because I know that the show that they tried to do was a big old failure. I think it had like 1 or 2 episodes and then it got completely canceled. They are creating a horror-based movie for Swamp Thing. Kind of want to see first if we can get a little idea from Jalen. What exactly does the character of Swamp Thing do? How does he connect to the universe as a whole?
He is OG with like kind of all of the stuff that involves supernatural stuff. So anything that would involve Constantine or Itala or whatever. So all that kind of spooky horror, gross stuff. He's the land, like the Lord of the Lands kind of deal. Anything to do with nature, that kind of thing, the seas and the high tide. You see him sometimes with Aquaman, and sometimes he'll run into, that kind of stuff. I will say, if they're smart, which I'm not sure that they are, they will try to blend the stuff from the TV show, actors, etc., and just make that into a movie, because the show was fucking brilliant. I loved the Swamp Thing show. I
You watched
absolutely
something?
adored it.
It was
Yes,
so
and I was-
old. But it
No,
was
no,
so
not
good.
the old one. There was a new one
that
on
came
HBO
out.
Max.
They only
Oh, I
released
did
like
not see the new
one
one.
episode, right, or 2 episodes, and then it was done. Are you
No,
talking about
they
that
had
one?
a whole season. It just done. They only released one season, and they canceled it instantly. That's why we were all upset.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
So we got a whole season of like characters and things. And
Was that the one with
stuff, and
Crystal Reed as the actress in it?
I believe so. Yes,
Okay,
she did a
gotcha.
phenomenal job.
Gotcha.
And so I'm hoping that maybe.
Side note: she returned for the Teen Wolf movie, which I don't recommend for anyone.
Well,
Yeah, it got horrible reviews.
yeah, but did our boy come back? That's
Dylan O'Brien? No, he did not.
not Dylan. The my other
Tyler
homeboy.
Posey? The one that was in Smallville, Tyler Posey.
Not Posey. No. The other homeboy that's playing Superman right now.
Oh, Tyler
Hoechlin.
Hoechlin?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He had a good arc in that movie.
Fuck yeah, he did.
I just think, side note, I just think that movie knew that it was a movie, and so it tried to cram all the fan service into it as much as they could. But that's my take. That's my take. I enjoyed it, but this could have just been a mini series, and I would have been fine with it.
But I'm hoping they just take kind of a lot of that and make it movie because we didn't get the rest of the show. But who knows?
Kind of going off of that, Keone, I wanted to ask you, since they are kind of making Swamp Thing in a horror atmosphere, do you think that this is going to be kind of like a indicator that they might create kind of like a little sub-genre universe where they are relating more to the horror aspect? Doesn't necessarily have to be conjoined with the big universe, but it is in the universe. And
I'm not gonna lie.
Supernatural. I'll put it because Jalen said the word supernatural kind of.
I think
world.
we're at the point now where like I could kind of answer objectively for the other few things, but because this is a universe, I mean,
before you answer, let me ask, Jalen, does Swamp Thing have a big part in the greater universe? Before you can answer subjectively, I'll let you, Keone, but I just want to ask Jalen first, since he has a little more knowledge regarding it.
It depends on where you're going, because if you're dealing with things like Darkseid, then no. But if we're going to lead up to something that's more in the realm of the supernatural, like Raven's dad, for instance, then yeah, he would probably at some point come involved. I think this is more of an Elseworlds property, personally.
Okay, that's fair. Go ahead, Kieran.
I think at this point this is really grasping at straws, man. Like, I mean, I want to say objectively that like it's exciting to hear that they're going with the Elseworlds property type of deal with like all of the different things that they're bringing in. We've seen them have some great success with some of the movies that they've done with the Batman and Joker and those sorts of properties. And I do feel like that they can do this, but in the same sense, I think, I don't know when we're getting to that point, so I'm just slowly building. I'm slowly building towards it.
We're almost there.
And I just want to say that I do think that, like, as excited as I am trying to be for anything that is coming out from the DC universe and trying to, like, really wrap my head around what properties are coming out, for me, it's like when you got the MCU to compare it to, and I mean, I'm not saying that I'm part of this full generation where people are like their attention spans are so short that they have to like move on to whatever's next. But I will say that like at this point in time, like I have been groomed in the MCU universe where or the MCU where I'm kind of at the point where it's like, yes, I agree with them dropping a Werewolf by Night kind of concept because it's
that's because
new,
it's at that
fresh
point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I get you.
But because we're starting this brand new universe in this way, I think it's a little off-putting for me. I get what he's trying to do, and it's basically like trying to catch up like 15 years of universe that he hasn't been able to build up until this point. So it's like he's trying to like backlog it a little bit and maybe like get ahead of the game. But at the same time, like for me, this is one of those things where I'm like, who's asking for this? Like as a casual fan, and I'll call myself a casual because I'm not on the level of a Jalen. Like, I'm not fully riding with the DC universe. I don't have the knowledge that I need to have. As a casual fan, I'm like, realistically, like, listing off the properties that you just named, like, who in there do I really know? Like realistically.
You don't know the Creature Commandos?
Yeah, exactly. Creature
Commandos. Come on, dude.
We got the Swamp Thing. Like, these are all properties that I'm not familiar with. So, like, to start off by trying to take a big swing in a different direction, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I know that. Whoa, what is going on with Jared?
It's the sunlight glare. It's the sunlight glare.
It's a sunlight glare.
I don't understand the direction that we're going in, and for me personally, this Swamp Thing, it could be great. I mean, I've seen some pretty random great properties come out of DC, and the Batman and Joker, phenomenal things. Yeah. I think they were two of the best superhero properties to come out in all of the superhero shows, critically and just from a fan standpoint. But at the same time, like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I knew who those guys were. This is something completely off the wall. So it's hard for me to get on board with it because as an MCU fan and as somebody who is a little more versed in the MCU, like, it's something that's it's just, to me, it's like trying to appeal to the millions of people who are already on board with the MCU. Yeah. Like, I just don't understand the direction we're going right now.
So here I'll go before we get into the last two movies and then into some extra stuff regarding DC.
Yeah.
I do not like the slate release either. I didn't say it to any of you guys because I wanted to be some sort of fresh take that we're going to talk about. I wanted to make sure that we're trying to do objective as much as we can. But in my eyes, while I love that, James Gunn is, and I think we can all agree, James Gunn is a comic book fan. He's not just some random guy coming in just trying to.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're bringing in Creature Commandos and Swamp Thing, I mean, damn, you're really reaching into that.
If you are trying to hard reset or soft reset, I guess you could say, the DC universe, we don't need these outlier C characters or C IPs coming in yet. The MCU, obviously we don't want to always compare the DC to the MCU because the MCU is the first of its kind in a way.
But why can't we though?
I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to always compare it, but in this case, you have a formula that works where you can bring in a movie about the Green Lantern. You can bring in a movie about a new Batman. You can bring in a movie about Superman. You can bring in a movie about Wonder Woman. You can create a foundation that creates something and then bring in like the Guardians of the Galaxy was to the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly, because nobody was on board with the Guardians of the Galaxy when it first was announced.
I don't enjoy the release because I think it is playing too much of their futuristic plan as opposed to just setting a foundation, bring people back to the DC, because there was obviously divisiveness regarding Zack Snyder and this and that and whatever you want to call it. But I think that they're reaching, they're grasping at straws, just like Keone mentioned. They're grasping at straws to appeal to hardcore comic book fans, when hardcore comic book fans are not the majority that's going to be in the theaters to watch a movie.
Yeah.
So
that's a fantastic point.
I don't love the slate, but
do you the slate?
me being optimistic, I'm going to hold out hope that it is good quality productions. I'm not going to say that I'm going to be in the theater on the first week.
You don't have to like them.
I don't have to like them. I don't necessarily like them. I like that they're making Green Lantern, and then that's it.
Think of this more as like the Dallas Mavericks. Like, you're a fan, but you're just kind of there when they're good and not really there when they were.
I was never a Dallas Mavericks fan.
No, I know. No, but that's the point I'm saying is, like, you were never really a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, so you don't have to be a fan of the DCU.
That's fair.
What I'm saying is, like, do you really?
Yeah. But in my eyes, just going based off of what we've talked about thus far, the only things I'm really excited about are the Green Lantern, because we finally get Green Lantern. Hopefully, an honest Green Lantern production, and Swamp Thing because I like horror, but that's just me. You know, that obviously if you guys don't care about Swamp Thing, that's totally cool. I agree. It's a very outlandish thing to pick.
No, I do, because of Werewolf by Night. I do agree with like the concept of that, because I did enjoy that. You know what I'm saying? But it's because, like you said, it's the beginning. It's like the foundation. You set the foundation, then you build around the foundation. That's what's weird about it. Yeah.
So, actually, I'm going to go with you, Keone, because I'm going to save a specific one that was announced for
Which
our
one?
comic book connoisseur. Don't worry.
Oh.
We're going to get to you.
So, and what
you can
point,
be
what point,
no. And you can be as
point in time
subjective.
do me and
You
Jared
can
get
be
to
as
play
subjective
Warzone
as you'd like,
after
Jalen,
this?
and I
No.
give you full
Should I start loading up?
for the hounds
Thank
of
you.
hell.
Okay, start loading.
Keone,
Yeah, I'm just gonna
one
load
of
it up on
the
my.
main movies that is going to be released in the next slate is The Bold and the Brave, which is a Batman movie starring his son as well, Damian Wayne, and thus introducing the Bat family. So first off, I'm going to preface this question on what your thoughts on this is, because if this is the way that they're going, that means that there's already been a Dick Grayson, there's already been a Jason Todd, there's already been a Tim Drake, and
See, you're building it up to. See,
I want to know, but this is subjective.
No,
No, this is subjective.
no,
this is
no,
subjective
yeah, okay,
now. I'm
gotcha. I
letting
was
you
like,
guys.
gotcha,
I'm
gotcha,
releasing
gotcha.
you guys.
Gotcha. I thought you were talking about. I was like, I'm not going to keep the subjective anymore.
Yeah, no,
Wait,
I'm letting you guys free now.
Gotcha.
And this means that there's also the Batgirl, Batwoman, whatever you want to call it. You know, all this. And what does this indicate? It's going to be an older Batman.
Yeah.
And they want to restart this DC universe with an older Batman. Make it make sense, Keone. Go ahead.
I'm going to put it in terms of like the success of the Batman games that were released for.
Ooh, I love those Arkham games.
Yes, all
So
of the
good.
Arkham games,
So good.
did phenomenal, right?
Also, side note, Troy Baker as the voice of the Joker in Arkham
Yes.
Origins.
Oh.
You did a phenomenal
Yes.
job stepping in
Yes.
for Mark
Well
Hamill.
done.
Like,
you
listen.
were
Well done.
phenomenal.
Well done.
Love Mark
My
Hamill,
boy.
but that dude,
Agree.
he put some work in for that one.
Yeah.
right?
Hell
Like, damn,
yes.
bro.
Agree.
Like,
He's also
well
the voice
done.
of Joel, correct, in Last of Us?
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
Yes.
he is.
Man of many
Fantastic.
talents. Go ahead.
And I will say, from that, if as a gamer, if you understand what I'm talking about, to go from the Arkham trio of games to then the Arkham Knights game, this is very telling of like what we're about to do with the DCEU, because the Arkham Knights game was pretty much a flop as far as like not only just sales, but from story to
I'm gonna get
just
some more whiskey for this 'cause
mechanics.
I need
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready for this.
To everything that happened within that universe, it was a complete fail. And from where I'm sitting, if we're looking at this subjectively, you don't start.
He said you don't have to be subjective. He said,
Oh
this is
yeah,
what
that's what I'm
you're-
saying. You
you
don't
are open.
start a brand new universe. You don't start it at
You're
the
missing
next,
like 30
No,
years
bro.
of content. Like,
This, and that's my
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 God.
thing is like I get you want to start new and you want to make it different, but it almost seems like this is my biggest thing with what James Gunn is doing right now is it almost feels like he's trying to catch up to what the MCU is doing, because the MCU is at the point where they are now introducing younger versions of characters. They're introducing all these different variants of characters. So there's that, but they've had 15 years of like growth up until this moment. So it makes sense. It doesn't make sense that if you're going to reset the universe to just already start at the point where the MCU is. Like for me, this is already starting off and we said it from the get-go that like if you're going to reset it, do it right. And he's not. Like this is exactly the wrong direction. 100%. I don't care how good this movie is, because if you're skipping over one of the two most beloved superheroes of all time, right? Batman and Superman, two of the most recognized, whether you're a casual, whether you're a super fan, whether you're just a movie fan, two of the most recognized superhero names in the entire world
Just the IP is alone,
Exactly. If you're skipping over all of that, you really, your foundation that you're building upon is already crumbling, because it doesn't make sense to go to the next part of it when you haven't even done the original portions. Like, for me, I don't know what James Gunn is trying to do. Like, I get that you want to compete with the MCU.
I'm really excited, maybe, because since he's introducing Batman, we're going to get Nightwing. We might get a Red Hood story. But I wanted to see Batman, which is what Robert Pattinson's Batman's doing. He's growing.
You're the only one.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like,
I'm with Nolan.
I don't like.
I like the
old school Michael Keaton and George Clooney one where they had Robin as some random gymnast who came out of nowhere and adult already. I wanted to see some growth. I'm not necessarily saying I want to see a 10-year-old running around town,
all right? Because there was that. Come on, we had Val Kilmer.
You can't forget about bat nipples now. Like, come on.
Yeah. But I'm just saying. I would love because, like you said, I am a fan of the Arkham games. I loved that they included Nightwing. I loved that they included a Red Hood story plot where I could actually fight or go against or converse and interact with Jason Todd. But the way that they set it up, I wanted to see how Batman got to this point. I don't need to see him with a son already, right?
Why can't we build that relationship first before we get to this point where we're already invested in them? Like, to me, like, that's the direction to go. Like, if you fleshed out an entire universe where we really get the father-son relationship between what he wants to do and what we already are so familiar with, that to me would be a phenomenal storyline. But because
I want to get Jared's thoughts.
He's skipping there. It just makes no sense, man.
I know we discussed prior when they first kind of announced that they're going to be resetting everything, and they've discussed with the old actors and the new actors and whatever it may be. Ben Affleck is interested in coming back to direct. Do you think, Jared, that there is a possibility that they will negotiate something where Ben Affleck, because he wrote a whole script for a Batman movie, that they could adopt some of those pieces into him directing this Brave and the Bold movie plot for Batman?
I mean, if he's going to direct, I'm sure he has some kind of say in some ways where they're going to allow him to have some creative freedom. I'm not saying they're going to add the whole, his whole storyline, his whole movie view and outlook of it. But when you get to direct, like I said, creative freedom is always there, It's the reason why great movies are great movies, because you get the directors who put it in a great place, who see things in a different light, and then that's how the movie becomes successful. So if you don't see something from Ben Affleck, like a Ben Affleck kind of like what is the word for it? Like a specialty that he has, basically, or something that he's known for, then did he really write the story? Did he really, or was he just there? Oh, you're doing this. It wasn't like he had a basic hand in it. So I think going forward, like he's gonna have some kind of impact on it.
I guarantee you, if they do come to some deal with Ben Affleck, I don't think they're gonna be like perfect, but this is what we want. I think if they do bring him back, they're gonna be like, okay, you can direct this movie. Include this, everything else is yours. And that would be the perfect world. Yeah, go ahead, Jalen.
I'll say, well, if they were smart, which they are not, they would have done this deal. Signed him to not only direct, but also act in this movie if this was the direction they were going to go for Batman.
With an older
clearly,
Batman.
You have to have someone in their mid-40s for this to occur. And then guess what he can be? This lovely little fan service gap between the Snyderverse era and your new era. But they're not smart enough to think that far ahead.
Instead, they're letting the Flash be that. But we're going to get to that in a bit. Don't
Jesus
you
Christ.
worry.
Yeah.
Moving on. Whoo, baby, where are we moving on? Jalen, this one's for you. This one, I want your thoughts on this one. It's going to be a Superman movie. Superman movie that's going to be starring a Superman around the age of 25. The movie is called Superman Legacy, and it's going to be releasing in July of 2025. So, before you get into the Henry Cavill information regarding it, I want you to let us know what you think about them resetting with a young Superman of 25 years of age.
Oh, you mean the thing that we already saw with Zack Snyder's iteration of the character?
Steel, maybe?
Man of Steel, that you probably didn't need to do again because it's not that old yet to where
especially if you're going to have an old Batman, you could just keep Henry Cavill as the Batman that you had,
right.
or as the Superman as you had. And
again, it doesn't like what he's doing is just stupid. There's no other explanation, because instead of what I have said 1,000 times on this godforsaken show that we love so much, of doing what should have been done, which is bring in a guy like James Gunn, who's super knowledgeable, worked in the MCU, knows how to connect universes, and just clean up and right the ship a little bit with the already existing properties. We're trying to do all new stuff that doesn't make any fucking sense. You have a 40-year-old Batman, you're going to have a young Superman, or you're telling me that Batman is somehow going to mentor a literal god? That's not how that works at all in the comics. At most, in the comic books, Bruce and Clark are like maybe 10 years apart in age. Like they're not that wide. So now we're talking about like a 40, almost 50-year-old Batman with a kid, a 25-year-old Superman, an even younger version of Kara, because Kara has to be at least, I believe, 15-ish years younger than Superman, almost in her teenage years between whenever they meet up and he's Superman or whatever. So now we have all these dynamics going on, but somehow this universe is going to connect and you're going to make a Justice League movie, I assume, down the road somewhere. You're an idiot. You're a certified idiot. I would hope to God you get a CAT scan, because something is not working up there, James Gunn. I hate to break the news to you. That's not how you do it. What you should have done was re-sign Henry Cavill. You can reset the universe, but what you could have done was something that is doing well for you right now is just make a movie version of the show you have on HBO Max and CW. That is literally all you had to do. We're seeing a father version of Batman. We could have seen a father version of Superman. And then guess what you could have fucking done? You could have done a Super Sons movie, which is his son, Batman's son, doing stuff. Because then we kind of get this cool, like, redo of Batman versus Superman, air quotes. But we also get this kind of cool, like, world's finest with the kids. And then guess what? You can have cameos of those two in the middle. That's how you build a universe, if you actually know what the fuck you're doing. But you don't. You have no idea. You're just doing random stuff, hoping it sticks, and the first movie that you make is probably going to flop, more than likely. At best, you get one more movie to do it over, because Superman's an IP that's just going to sell, is what it is. When that movie drops, it's going to make enough to get a sequel or continue on this road. But that's all. Like, the slate of movies that he is banking on working are a Flash movie headed by a literal criminal, okay? Following that Flash movie, I believe the Superman one is either one movie after that or like either right after, one of the two, to follow that film. So you're basically banking on the rest of this stuff. Like the TV shows and all that don't happen, by the way, if the movies suck. Like the movies are what's going to fund the rest of this shit for HBO and whatnot. So like if this movie sucks, high probability it will. The rest of this is not going to work. Like, we're banking on the Flash at this point, and I can't imagine why. I cannot. I will not be seeing that movie in theaters. I refuse. I will be viewing it by other means, simply because of what's going on with Ezra Miller. It might be the best superhero movie ever made. It might be. Who knows? We might watch it. I will see it because razzled and dazzled. I do like it, but like, man, I'm sorry. Like after the last couple things that came out, it's like, yo, we went from like assaults, B&E to like kidnapping and grooming, and that's where I was like, okay, all right, well we're done. I'm done on Ezra Miller. So that's where I was at with that. So you're banking on that movie to bankroll the rest of this plan, and we all have seen how this works, right? They say we're going to do X, Y, Z. One movie flops. That's how we got the Snyderverse meltdown or whatever. When in reality, all they had to do was wait for the BVS numbers to come in, and that would have solidified him finishing the trilogy, but that's for another day that I won't rant about. But anywho, I think it's moronic that you didn't keep Henry Cavill for this role. You definitely could have done something new with his version of Superman being rebooted in this universe 100% if you were going to use the Flash movie, like we did predict, by the way, several times. I think like a lot of us have predicted that to just do a cool reset on the universe. Great. But we don't need to do this hard reboot that he's talking about where we're bringing in brand new, completely different ideas to then weave it all back together. I think it's moronic. Really, The Flash should have just been a soft reboot property more than a hard reset that James Gunn is trying to make it.
And apparently the Flash movie, according to James Gunn and Peter Safran, is going to reset the DC universe because of its Flashpoint-esque story plot. I am actually holding out hope. This is a side note. That Dylan O'Brien is actually going to be the one that's the new Flash, and for some reason, that's why he couldn't be in Teen Wolf, is because he was shooting under the covers of coming in as the Flash. But that's just me.
That'd be great. I would be so down
that's
for
a fan
that.
casting, you know, because
if
he has
we'll
the
have to
clips.
suffer Ezra Miller to get Dylan O'Brien as the new Flash.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. Sign me up.
Just going to touch base regarding what the Elseworlds movies are that are on the slate thus far. It's going to be Batman with Robert Pattinson, Part 2, which is going to release in October of 2025.
Can't wait.
Definitely excited for that because I love that Batman universe thus far that Matt Reeves has created. Joker, Folie à Deux, which is the second movie in that, I guess, universe as well, the Elseworlds. And Black Superman movie.
Excellent. As long as it's got Michael B. Jordan.
Oh. As Superman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the big rumor floating around.
That is the rumor.
With that movie. So if it's, I mean, if it's not, I'm still going to go see it. I think it's an interesting universe and story from that run of comics. So from the New 52.
Peter Safran also kind of hinted that the Aquaman 3 could still be a possibility. Obviously, there was some reports that Jason Momoa left a meeting with James Gunn, Peter Safran, DC is everything. This was like a couple weeks ago, and apparently he was ecstatic and excited for something that was coming down the pipeline. A lot of people were rumoring that it was going to be him as Lobo, but they didn't release anything regarding Lobo, and that's going to kind of tie into my next topic point. Quotes, door is open for reprisal for these these actors to reprise their roles, and that includes Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Zachary Levi, and Ezra Miller. Before we get into that idea, I did think, and I'll take this as my only one kind of copy plot thought from John Campea, because I did just recently listen. The reason I also kind of agree that they haven't said that these characters are not returning is because at least 3 of those 4 still have movies coming out. And if you're saying, oh yeah, Jason Momoa's not coming back as Aquaman, people probably won't go see it. Oh yeah, Zachary Levi, this is his last movie as Shazam. People probably won't go see it. Ezra Miller, fuck that guy. Doesn't matter. But
exactly.
Marketing wise, their thought is, why am I going to say this guy's not coming back yet until the theatrical run is done, and then say, all right, yeah, Jason Momoa is not going to be returning as Aquaman. Ezra Miller is not going to be returning as Flash. There's been a lot of rumors that they said that.
Oh, so they have no integrity. Gotcha. That's a reason to be a fan of them.
They are running a marketing kind of.
It is what it is. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So those are obviously things. Aquaman,
Another
Flash, and Shazam.
For why I'm not a fan.
Flash, and then Aquaman are the 3 leftover DCEU movies that are going to be releasing this year. So those are going to be exciting. Maybe Blue Beetle is still going to be releasing, I believe, next year or end of this year.
Something. Again,
and
one
forgive me if I'm wrong.
Flash, Blue Beetle, Superman, and then one of the other ones I think is supposed to be.
Because I don't know when they've finished principal photography for Blue Beetle, but I mean, given that all this has kind of happened and they're already going to reset, I wouldn't be surprised if the plot line or storyline for Blue Beetle is very ambiguous, so that they can just fit it into a new DC. But whatever, I don't know anything about Blue Beetle, so we'll find out later about that. But those are kind of the last really DC announcements that have been coming out. Any last thoughts before we move on to The Last of Us, which we all love?
Yeah, but like that's the thing though. Like he's picking and choosing. Like, okay, Aquaman gets to stay and Wonder Woman gets to stay, but no Superman, no Batman. Like that doesn't make any sense, dude. Like if you're gonna have Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot still being Wonder Woman and Aquaman, why are we not still having Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill? Like that's the part that I think is the most frustrating and upsetting about these announcements. It's that you preach continuity, you preach wanting to bring the universe together, but you're also simultaneously dividing it and destroying it because you know as soon as those other properties are done, you're not going to redo those characters. So it makes no sense. So unless you're going to do something that actually mends it, like maybe introduce an Aqualad, maybe introduce Wonder Girl or whatever, and like a Young Justice kind of deal, then like what are you doing? Like you're not doing anything other than giving empty promises that won't fill out because there's going to be again, this Flash movie is going to have so much controversy around it. You can't base that on resetting a universe. Like, I can't, regardless of what happens, it can't be how you reset the universe. It shouldn't be a reset. It should just be a kind of a shift, if that makes any sense. Like, it should have just been, you know what I'm saying? Like, they definitely kind of use some things in Flash, regardless of how it ends, because if it really is Flashpoint, then a lot of things can change, which is true, but not to the point of where we're doing completely new properties. It needs to change in the fact that, like, hey, maybe these things didn't happen to Henry Cavill and he wasn't so depressed in his early days, so now we can do some more of, like, Man of Tomorrow, Superman Legacy, like, there's, oh my God.
Is there a specific Superman Legacy story arc that we should be aware of?
Not off the top of my head, but there is one that, like, we had the lead off from Zack Snyder's Justice League of Lois being pregnant. So, I mean, you can use the weird time gap to kind of accelerate that process and jump us to Super Sons. Like, that is I think if they would have just pressed forward with, and again, I'm still not a big Amy Adams fan as Lois Lane. I've said it 100 times. I think she's one of the worst parts about that. However, if we're keeping continuity for continuity, she's got to be in the movie. I still think if that movie comes out, because of how much I love the Superman show, Superman and Lois right now, if that movie comes out, it would do bangers, because no one has really seen in a cinema setting Superman be a father and also still have to be Superman. And introducing that dynamic puts a completely different lens on this godlike being that can't deal with his son who's doing, like, teenager stuff and getting in trouble. Like it blows your mind when you're watching the show. So if they brought any of that into it, that's the direction they should have gone.
And I will say this,
really
for the
shifted.
Teen Wolf movie, Tyler Hoechlin also has to be a father.
Right. And he's so good at it too. Like, he nails it. Again, I was pretty bought in on Tyler Hoechlin when he came in on Supergirl, but then once he kind of got to lead a show and really got to go into Superman Lois season 1, I was full tilt, full time on Tyler Hoechlin. So he's up there like number 3 behind, Christopher Reeves and Tom Welling for me. So there's that aspect, but again, just make it make sense, James Gunn. Like, clearly you don't know what you're doing. You didn't take enough notes with Kevin Feige. Like, it's just a shame. It's a real shame. Some of these properties, hey, I'll give them kudos. The Lantern stuff, the premise of it being like a true crime show and you just get to see different lanterns, great. Love it. Wonderful. Better see my boy John Diggle as a Lantern. That's all I'm saying.
Ooh.
That's it. If I get one episode,
John Diggle as a Lantern.
No, literally, I want John Diggle from the CW Arrowverse to be a Lantern in this.
But I mean, like, you want his actor to be like John Stewart? Okay.
No, not even John Stewart. You can literally do a Diggle Lantern. You can do a literal adaptation from how the show is structured. If it's supposed to be kind of anthology and true crime based, then you can literally do a John Diggle episode of Green Lantern and just give us the fucking thing that we've been asking for goddamn 12 years now, almost, since the Arrowverse got created. You give us one episode, I guarantee you everyone's going to be like, James Gunn is the best. Oh my God. In that fashion. There will be parades in the fucking streets. Guaranteed. But I doubt we'll get it. Because God forbid we get anything we want.
We'll see what happens. We've all said our pieces. Any last thoughts from you two gentlemen before we move on to something we all love? All right. Fair enough.
Would also just like to say we were we collectively thought things were interesting on 3 of the 10 properties that he announced. So
yeah, I'm just going to say, as an over-encompassing thought.
Just saying.
I said it from the get-go. I'll say it again. Not excited. Not a fan of the direction. This whole entire universe to me is just he's taking it in the wrong direction.
There's a lot of smoke.
It's not just that it's convoluted. It's that he is trying to catch up to a universe that is 15 years ahead of him.
That's a good point.
And he is trying to make it that universe when realistically he should just be doing exactly what he said he was trying to do and resetting it. If you're going to reset it. Don't just try to catch up to everybody else and do what they're trying to do. Like, to me, it just he's doing the wrong thing.
Only reason I'm
Sorry,
gonna
James
ever
Gunn.
be
Horrible,
excited about it
horrible.
is
No
you
optimism.
somehow get, Martin Scorsese and James Cameron to come in here and do some sort of random directorial. That would be exciting, but also
Steven Spielberg.
Oh my God! I
would
go
see
Spielberg.
A
Spielberg
Spielberg
is one thing.
Superman movie would be.
Wait.
Scorsese can go F himself because I really don't want to see him get into this because after all he has said
poo-pooed
about
on superhero movies. Yeah,
like
he can
legit,
go
yeah,
kick rocks,
legit. Just get out of here, bro. Like honestly, like if you're going to come into this now because it's going to bring you all this money, like just get out.
This
like honestly,
cinema
like
just got an Oscar nomination. You fuck.
I'm with Spielberg, but
I will say
when
The Departed
Angela
was a great
Bassett
movie.
wins Best Supporting Actor this year, nuts. Scorsese, nuts. You know what I'm saying?
suck it.
Right.
Alrighty. Anyways, moving on.
Speaking of nuts, The Last of Us episode.
Wow!
Whoa! What a segue! Wow!
From downtown,
I didn't
top
see it.
rope.
I didn't see it.
Oh, they went down.
Oh my God!
Whoa,
man.
Keone.
Did not.
Yo, so we
Whether or not
have
that was
definitely
intentional.
spent a lot of time with some anger. We're gonna have some happiness and
Yeah, sure.
sadness in this next part.
Just drink
The
away the
Last
pain.
of Us,
It's fine.
episode 3, starring Bill and Frank, who my understanding is 2 characters, at least one by name and one actually appearing in the actual game.
One does. Bill, I believe, is
yeah.
actually in the game.
Yeah, the one
rest
played
of it
by
was
Nick Offerman.
Completely off shot.
They did take a swerve from the storyline in regards to this whole episode is a brand new constructed storyline for the show itself. I'm gonna throw it over to you first, Jared. I'm just kidding. I forgot you haven't
I
seen
got
the
you.
show.
I got you.
Oh, you do? You watched it?
It's a great show. The turn that it took. It was
your
all over
mouth.
social media. The Twitterverse was ridiculous with it.
It was popping last Sunday.
I know
night.
it was like I'm
was
not even gonna
popping.
lie. Like I saw all like the things to it. Like I didn't see a show, whatever. But every single thing that had to do with it, literally,
Right.
it was all over the social media. So I was like,
Anyways,
this is gonna be in my head. I was like, this is gonna be a
Well played,
great podcast coming.
It really is. Yeah.
Jalen, I'm gonna throw it over to you first. First, I'm just gonna start you off with one line from the show, the episode. I was never afraid until you came along.
Oh my God.
Quote unquote,
broke
because
me.
that's paraphrasing a little bit. I don't
Right.
think that's exact wording, but
It
I thought you were
broke
gonna say.
let me
banger.
know what you thought about this episode and how you feel it was crafted.
I'm gonna address the elephant in the room that if you're a person that can't get with the times and understand that gay people exist
Love is
in
love.
every form and fashion, then you probably hated this episode. Okay? If you can get with the times and understand that those people do exist and the storylines, like mentioned, happen where you go your entire lifetime in the closet, like Nick Offerman's character, and it took the literal ending of the world for you to finally feel comfortable enough to meet somebody. This is just the most brilliant episode of storytelling that I'm talking about, like Game of Thrones, which I got to watch, like the Lord of the Rings show had some great narrative episodes, but the care and the time that the writers in this episode took for every little thing to come together in one episode that, by the way, is complete filler. This episode is nothing else but filler. This doesn't progress any of the plot really between episode 2 and what's going to happen in episode 4. But it's just a beautifully done episode from top to bottom. Performances were outstanding from Nick Offerman, the man himself, to which when the episode started, I did think to myself, of course, the one actor in Hollywood that always has to play the fucking tinfoil Andy, end of the world bunker redneck guy that has all the guns and is the doomsday prepper has to be Nick Offerman. Then they take that idea, and they had to have known that he was going to be in this episode because it's so specific to him from what we saw in Parks and Rec. and they completely flip it on you, and you get to see his acting muscles get flexed the entire episode. That is what I think just hooked you in so deep, because you saw it, you thought you were going to get a stereotypical, this is how this is going to go episode, and then it's not. It's not at all. It is a beautifully crafted story of what two gay men will probably go through in an apocalyptic future, where they don't have access to medicine to treat, HIV and AIDS and all that kind of stuff. Like that is what is at the core of what love is love. And like, you can find happiness in just being with each other and all these things. And we do get a little bit, and we get a little bit of tie back to how all this makes sense. Cause for the first 20 minutes of the episode, you are sitting there wondering like, this is like great, but also what are we doing? And then they finally show like, oh, this is how they met Tess, and this is how they met Joel, and all that kind of stuff. And that's how the runner, like, we get backstory on what they were doing in those first two episodes, running all the supplies back, because we just heard about a truck.
I was not anticipating that age jump. I was like, oh.
No, not at all. Yeah. So it was good, though, because I think without the time jumps, we would have been stuck in this weird, like, really filler episode of progressing this storyline to catch up to then this storyline or something. But yeah, it was a beautiful episode. I definitely teared up at several points. I think the end scene where they decided to die together, and then a couple of the other episode, like,
if you haven't seen the episode, sorry, spoiler alert.
Sorry, it is what it is. People are going to die in the show. But it's great, man. And yeah, it's just, it is what, that's it. It's just great. And I can't believe that a video game adaptation was able to bring this level of storytelling with just a minuscule amount of the actual video game property itself, but just give us that exploration into this world that we're going to be in for the next couple episodes, man. It was, so good. So good. I would say if you're going to watch the episode, get some space, maybe get your loved one with you so you can cry together in a situation. You know what I mean? Like it's a heavy one, but it's really, really,
and that
really good.
Last shot where it just closes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It was so good. Yeah. Yeah. Just again, it's those tiny little details in the entire episode that just, it carries it, man. Directionally, acting, story choices, just dialogue, all of it. I don't know if you can find a better constructed episode of television in like ever. I don't know. And
this is how you adapt a game to the screen.
Yes.
Keone, I'm going to throw it over to you. As someone who's played the game, what were your thoughts on their kind of honest and well-meant departure from the actual story, I guess you could say, but as well as what you thought about the episode?
First and foremost, I think that it was a welcome change, because I obviously, like, there was like that whole, like, initially where I was kind of like, oh, they can't like skip this and they can't skip that. They have to do this and they have to do that. Like, this was one of those storylines where I think they had enough play. Like, a lot of people who were fans of the game were kind of in the same boat as I was, where this wasn't something that you really had to be like exactly to the T as far as what the game provided. So I think this was one of those things where it was a welcome surprise. And on top of that, I think watching the initial, first of all, can I just say that there will be so many more people who will verbalize, like, I think there were so many things that after like Brokeback Mountain came out, like there were so many guys who would be like, oh, that's like the verb of Brokeback became a thing. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I think that this episode will be the new verbiage. Like, this will be like the new word you use, because when you want to depict a full like version of a love story, like that was obviously of like the homosexual genre, like I think they killed it, man. I like, as somebody who was, who came into this episode like as a fan of the game, what they did with Nick Offerman's character, first of all, and like the fact that Nick Offerman was the character, like I just think that was already like a perfect choice for it. Like, if he doesn't get like some sort of like nomination for something at the end of the year, like I I have no faith in what they're doing as far as the Academy is concerned. Like, to me, like, this was one of the best performances from just every aspect of his character, from the initial, like, kind of like, I guess, like the normalcy tendency where he's kind of trying to fight against his feelings, but he's also understanding where he's at as far as like how he romantically feels about this character, and at the same time like so desperate to find companionship, but at the same time fighting that. Like, to me, there were so many different layers to what he did with his character. Like, I think he did phenomenally, man. Like, I for me, it was like almost like going through his progression as he was doing it. Like, to me, it was so poetic. It was so natural. It was so beautiful. Like, I think, I even told Bianca this, that like after the episode, even I was like as a guy who is not that way,
there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but as for somebody who is not, right? Like, I think that it was so beautifully done. Like, I think you really felt every single emotional component throughout this entire episode. From the very beginning where he's very hesitant to like the very end where he's just like all his guards are down. Every wall is broken. And I think that's where I assimilated to it. Like, it's a feeling that most men go through where you have like 1,000 walls that you have to like break down, and then when you finally break them down, it's like the floodgates open. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, it's one of those things where like once you get to that point, everything breaks out. And I think they did that so beautifully, so wonderfully. I think throughout the episode, I was watching it, and just at the very, very end of the episode, like, there was so much love for what these characters were and how they loved each other. It just every part of it. Like, I think there's a part of it, like, I'm trying really hard not to spoil it for Jared too, especially, but there's a part of it where like kind of like I would say like 3/4 through the episode, like we are worried about a certain character, and then like it kind of flips. Yeah. Like, I think that part initially, like even Bianca looked at me and like, obviously like Bianca said crying. I mean, I'm sure you guys all had similar experiences where somebody was crying. Somebody had to be tearing up in the room.
Yeah, definitely Keone. It's fine.
Yeah, it was you, man. Definitely you. We know you watched it alone. It's okay, man. Just say it.
No, but like, I think seeing that reaction and then like initially going through it, like, man, like you felt every part of it. And for me, like that is the true like essence of when a show is great, is when you're like riding along with the emotions of the show as the show progresses. Like, bro, if you can do that to me, like, I'm with you 100%. Like, if this is like full circle moment, if James Gunn can do that,
oh my God.
Here we go. If you can do that with Swamp Thing, I'm done. I'm done. But like realistically, like this is how movies and TV shows should be made for the future. Like, this episode needs to be nominated, man. Like, if it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves, like, I don't think like there's any hope for me in what the Academy sees in television and movies. Like, this right. For me was the epitome of what you should have as far as an Academy Award-winning television show. So, I agree with the critics, man. Where they're going with this scrap, like this show is fantastic, and I've seen the next episode, so I'm not going to speak too much on it. But I will say, like, it just keeps going. You know what I'm saying?
It just keeps going.
There's no
going, man.
There's no drop off. So I'll say that. I'm with this whole show 100%, and I'm excited to see what they do with it in the future.
I had a question for the two of you because I think Keone brought up a very interesting point, and why the show is so brilliant, especially in this episode, right? Because you talked about how men in relationships usually, like, it takes the other half to kind of get through those walls, right? But like you two, I believe both of you watched it with partners, right? Like you watched it with Bianca, you watched it with Nicole. So like you talked about that feeling, right? And as people that are heterosexual in the chat, you know what I'm saying? Like you were able to relate to that. And I think that speaks volumes to understanding that this is a literal, just plain blanket love story. It just looks a little different for right now. I think that's the biggest thing.
I told Bianca specifically, like, I don't think I could do this with you. Like this specific, like this scenario, like thinking through the feeling,
no, but
thinking through how to deal with it. There's no way, man.
I think in the exact, like, I'm not going to spoil it for Jared, but in the episode, the way Nick Offerman handled it, I was like, that is the only answer I have. That's the only answer. There's no other way.
Right.
So
there's no other way.
There is 1,000% a lot going on with that.
I think that's the only way. Especially because as men, because what, like Keone said though, because as men in these in relationships, at least once those walls go down and we have that other half of us finally fulfill, like the floodgates are open. So when we get to that part of the episode, I too was like, well, I'm not just, like this is how this is going down. You know what I mean? Like,
be here alone?
Right.
I'm not chopped liver here.
Like this is not
we just enjoyed strawberries. Come on.
If you're going, I'm going. Like that's you know what I'm saying? Like that's how this is gonna go. And I think that speaks volumes to that's how we operate.
It's beautiful,
there's just so many freaking layers that they put in this episode.
I agree.
And it's phenomenal television, guys. If you're not watching The Last of Us, again, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing with your life? Get it together, all right?
Waiting for the password.
Jared,
Get
what are you
Dunkin'
doing?
Donuts.
Jared, what are you
for the
doing?
Dunkin' Donuts, man.
Waiting for the password. Just make your own password.
Just
what are you
go
doing?
the old ways, man. Come on. just do it the old ways. Anyway.
What old ways?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. I will not say it on the pod. Other than that, that'll do it for us. This was a very lengthy episode for us this week, but it was for good reason. There was a lot of details in everything we discussed. Last thing I wanted to note was congratulations to Viola Davis for getting her EGOT. If you guys don't know what an EGOT is, it means she wants an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Woo! Only like a handful of people in the world in history have ever won all four. So congratulations to Viola Davis. But other than that, let them know where they can find you, gentlemen. Jalen?
You can find me on Instagram at Art by Jalen. You can find me on Twitter, probably crying about this next episode in a good way. On Twitter at Jalen Holston. You can find me on Twitch at Mokathanos_LGG. I will be streaming some Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, my boy!
Very soon. I did the thing.
Let's
I
go.
pre-ordered it. It's going to be in my arsenal by the end of tomorrow.
In my arse. I was like,
It's going to be in my arse.
the wand is going to be in my arse.
And then after we do some Harry Potter stuff, we'll probably do some Elden Ring because I still haven't beat the game yet. I'm taking my time.
Have you beaten that one guy yet?
I mean, which one guy?
The one that we watched you fail at last week.
Oh, Godric? Yeah, I beat it like 20 minutes after that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, for sure.
Yeah, Godfrey ain't shit.
So you were a little stage fright when we were watching it. We'll put it up to that.
I hadn't really developed my strat yet. Okay, that's all I was. I was. Those were the initial test runs. You got to go in and just kind of see what you're made of real quick.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Jared, let them know.
I am on Instagram and Twitch at JShirai, JSHIRAI, and on Twitter at JShirai808. And Jalen, I'm going to say, when you watch, I get nervous, so I probably miss a lot of shots. So knowing that you're watching, I understand the stage fright.
So that's why you died earlier.
Oh,
Hey, but you know what? I'm not out.
Yeah, Nolan. Suck it.
Inside joke for everyone who knows. Anyways, Keone.
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Konees, KYOHKNEE. Let's do Dead by Daylight soon. Come on.
Oh, I'm down.
Oh my.
Let's do it.
Oh, yes.
I'll be there.
Just saying.
It'll be a good time.
You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at NolanKYT. Once again, we want to thank you guys for always being supportive of us and giving us these views. We are going to be releasing more content over this next year, and we are excited to have you guys along for the ride. Thank you guys for making us a part of your day. We enjoyed having you be a part of ours. From all of us here at the Poi N Soy podcast, Good vibes and love.
Bang bang.
Shoots, but
Bang bang. God, James Gunn is just fucking terrible.
Bang bang. Bang bang.
Bang bang.
Just
Like the
bang,
most
bang.
thoughtful bang
Oh.
bang ever.
Bang bang.
Yeah. Idiot. Times 10.
what are you doing?